Sometimes I catch myself softly singing, "Welcome to your life. There's no turning back." And for a second, I am not here anymore. I'm somewhere else entirely. Back in a time when everything felt a little bigger, a little louder, a little more possible. And isn't it funny how a song can do that? How just a few words, barely above a whisper, can take you all the way back before you even realize what's happening. The other day, that feeling hit me again, but not from a place, it was from a sound. That slow rewind of a cassette tape that I heard in a video I was watching. That soft click before the music starts again. And just like that, I wasn't in my kitchen anymore. I was in my childhood bedroom, sitting cross-legged on the floor, waiting for my favorite song to come on so I could hit record at just the right second. Fingers crossed, hoping the DJ wouldn't talk over the intro. And if they did, you had to decide, do I keep it anyway or wait another hour or even longer and hope it comes back on? And y'all know what I'm talking about. And somehow that waiting made it mean more. You didn't skip ahead. You didn't scroll past it. You stayed. And somehow that memory felt so alive, like it had never really left. Because here's the thing about us, women who grew up somewhere between mixtapes and the internet. We didn't experience change. We are the change. We are the last generation who knew what it felt like to leave the house and be completely unreachable. No texts, no location sharing. Thank you. No constant updates. You just showed up when you said you would, or when curfew was. And if you didn't, you might hear about it later. You probably would hear about it later, but sometimes you wouldn't. And there was something strangely freeing about that. No one was tracking you. No one expected an instant replay. There was space. We memorized phone numbers, not one or two, dozens. Your best friend's number, of course your house number, or both house numbers in some houses. That one number you still remember for no reason at all. Because if you were out and needed to call home, you weren't scrolling through contacts. You were there standing at a payphone, maybe outside a grocery store, maybe at the mall, maybe at the foot of the causeway. And if you know, you know, hoping you had a dime or a quarter or whatever it cost, because I do not remember. And if you didn't though, you'd call collect or maybe even use a calling card. And if you had to call collect, sometimes you would say your name so fast, your mom knew to come and get you. And I mean, tell me you did that too, because we all did. And malls, can we just sit here for a second? Because the mall wasn't just a place to shop. It was the place. You didn't need a plan. You just went, walked around, ran into people, shared fries, tried on things you weren't going to buy, and somehow that was enough. And for me, where I lived, we didn't have a mall here in town, so we had to drive like 30 minutes or more to a mall. So it was a really big deal. And then we had Saturday mornings. They weren't packed with productivity. They were slow. They were cereal in a big bowl, cartoons or reruns playing in the background, and sleepovers. Those were entire worlds of their own. Talking about things you would never say out loud during the day, calling boys and hanging up, listening to music and analyzing every single lyric like it held the answers to your life. And maybe it kind of did. And on the subject of music, let's talk about that for a second. Because heartbreak back then, it didn't live quietly in the background. It filled the whole room. Songs like, Total Eclipse of the Heart, Careless Whisper, Take a Look at Me Now from Against All Odds. And then we had the power ballads like Alone or I Remember You, where suddenly your teenage heartbreak felt like the most important, most dramatic thing in the whole entire world. You didn't just hear them, you felt every word like it was written just for you. You would lay there, staring at the ceiling, replaying everything in your head, not skipping the song, not numbing it out, just feeling it. And maybe that's why hearing one song now can take you all the way back, not just to a moment, but to a version of yourself. The girl who was hopeful, curious, maybe a little unsure, but completely wide open. And here's the part that I keep coming back to lately. Why does that feel so comforting now? Why, after everything we've built, everything we've done, everything we've carried, do we find ourselves missing something so simple? I don't think it's just nostalgia. I think it's recognition. Because we grew up in a time where presence wasn't optional. If you were with someone, you were with them. Eye contact, real laughter, conversations that didn't compete with a screen. You weren't documenting the moment, you were living it. And now we're in a world where everything is faster, easier, more convenient, but sometimes a little less real. And I think that's why in this stage of life, something starts to shift. You begin to notice the noise more. You start craving quiet. You realize that just because everything is available doesn't mean everything is necessary. Maybe that's why we still love a handwritten note, or why we replay old songs instead of always chasing new ones, or why sometimes we just want to sit outside, no phone, no agenda, and just be. Because we remember what that feels like. And not everyone does. Our children don't. Our grandchildren will not. And maybe that's actually one of our greatest strengths, because being a Gen X woman means you know how to live in both worlds. You adapted to technology, you figured out social media, you learned how to navigate a digital life, but you also remember what life felt like without it. And that perspective, it's powerful, because you get to choose. You get to decide what comes with you into this next chapter. And you get to decide what doesn't. Maybe you don't want to be available 24/7. I know I don't. Maybe you don't want to keep up with every trend. Again, I don't. Maybe you don't want a life that feels rushed and constantly on. I absolutely don't. And here's the best part. We don't have to. Because this stage of life, it's not about proving anything anymore. It's about refining. Keeping what matters, letting go of what doesn't, and creating space for the kind of life that actually feels good to live. Sometimes I think we're the only ones who truly understand this in between. We remember the past, but we're fully in the present. And maybe that's exactly where we're meant to be. So the next time you hear that old song or remember something small and almost forgotten, let yourself stay there for a minute. Don't rush past it. Don't dismiss it. Sing it at the top of your lungs, because those memories, they're not just reminders of where you've been. They're clues, little pieces of you that are still very much alive. And maybe they're here to guide you into what comes next. Because this stage you're living now, it doesn't have to feel rushed or loud or overwhelming. It can feel like you, grounded, present, intentional, just like it did all those years ago. And maybe that's the real gift of being a Gen X woman. Not just that we remember, but that we know what's worth remembering. And what's worth bringing with us along the rest of this journey. So I hope that this touched you like it did me. And again, we are an amazing generation, and we need to keep showing everybody out there exactly who we are and how powerful we are and how powerful we are becoming. And I will talk to you and see you next time.